Come in with their identification. We already have a list of these offenders in Martin County. So right now there's already different laws on the book. If there's a sex offender or predator that's registered anywhere in the country, but specifically in the state of Florida, they have to tell their handling officers, deputies, where they are. Do you want me to pause for a minute? Is that messing you up?
We should be okay.
Okay. Where they are, right? So in Martin County, our detectives know where they are day to day, and we have a list of who those individuals are, so when they walk in, we'll know we can compare their names against that list. You would think that we would have a robust system enough where our deputies that are in these shelters would know who these individuals are, but that's not how that works. They don't know who they are when they walk in. So now when they come in, they present an identification. Oh, you're so-and-so, no problem. We'll take you over here to this special section we have for you. And then our regular citizens come in. They'll identify themselves also, and then they can stay with general population.
Would there be a deputy or deputies then whose job it is to supervise these people if they're at the hurricane shelter and a storm is going through?
Yes, so our detectives that normally have oversight on them and know who they are will be responsible for making sure that they're safe and that they're kept away from general population, the general public.
So if somebody doesn't have a photo ID, does that at all make it so that they can't get in or anything?
We can look them up. You know, we can go on Florida NCIC and FCIC. We can look for their driver's license, ID cards. We can look them up. So we're not worried about that. It really was putting the onus on the offender or the predator to come in and say, this is who I am, and where would you like me to go? And that was the goal of the ordinance, to force them to tell us who they were so we can put them in the right spot, and if they don't do that, we can arrest them. And that then violates their conditions too.
Do you have any examples where previously where a sexual offender, sexual predator got into a hurricane shelter and was milling around in there for days?
No, so as I stated earlier, not that we're aware of, but that could have happened and we would not know that. And again, these detectives were preparing for storms and started thinking we have an issue here. We have a huge, really a loophole where these offenders could just be milling around with people that they would normally not be allowed to be around.
It's so interesting.
What do you fear could happen? What are you afraid of?
You can't crawl in these individuals' minds. Unfortunately, these are sick individuals, sick in the head individuals that have done atrocious crimes. I mean, everything from stuff that they're looking at to actual deeds that they're committing. Some of them, in my opinion, unfortunately, aren't necessarily rehabilitated. They're out in the public, they reoffend, we rearrest, and I don't want them around our children. You know, it's my responsibility. The number one responsibility I have is to keep people safe. So I'm worried about anything that you can imagine happening. I don't know, grooming, inappropriate touching. I wouldn't want my child going into the school bathroom and having a sex offender right there beside them. I'm worried about everything, and you just don't know what these sick individuals can conceptualize in their minds.
Am I right that if not all, most hurricane shelters in Martin County are at a school?
Most are, yes.
And so that goes out the window, though, during a hurricane for sex offenders. It doesn't matter that it's at a school, they have access, right?
Yes, so to your point, it flips. Every day, day in and day out, they are prohibited, and then all of a sudden we're telling them this is your safe place. This is where you can go to be safe. So again, this ordinance helped kind of stand up some separation between whoever's in that shelter and our sex offenders being there.
Is this going to take more deputies than to be at each school? Because you're going to have somebody sitting at a computer and looking at background information on these people. Is that going to take more of your deputies to handle this?
It will take a couple of more of our detectives doing it. So each shelter is manned 24/7 by at least one deputy. Primarily it's our school resource deputies or our court security deputies that get assigned to these shelters just to keep the general public safe. And of course, we've had issues at these shelters, not with sex offenders, but people get a little cranky. They're moved out of their house. It's not the most ideal sleeping condition. It's safe, yes, but you know, you're around a bunch of people. You're worried about your house. You're worried about your family. Your animals are disturbed. So we have deputies there to mitigate whatever problems may be there anyway, but we will have to add a couple to keep an extra eye on these offenders.
It's been, I mean, hurricanes have been around as long as we can
Sure.
remember, right? But we're in 2025, and this idea has come about. I mean, can you speak to the creative thinking of deputies or team here to come up with something like this?
We encourage that at the Martin County Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office is successful not because of me or Sheriff, but because we have the best here. And I'm not saying that as a cliche. We allow our deputies, detectives, to think outside of the box. We encourage that. I don't hold them to my little standards. I want them to think proactively and head things off before they happen. That's our ultimate goal, is to keep people out of jail, keep people from being victimized. And in this scenario, again, I've said it twice already, these detectives, in my opinion, did a phenomenal job identifying a problem, a potential problem, and heading it off before it actually happened.
This is effective immediately, is that right? So our next hurricane, if it were to come about, this would be in place?
Yes, so soon as the board approved that, it became law here in Martin County.
So what's your message then to sexual predators or sexual offenders if a hurricane is about to strike and they're wondering, what do I do? What would you say to these guys?
Well, I would say, and they've already been noticed because there's over 150 of them that interact with our detectives every day. They go in and out of that door right there, and they register anytime anything changes in their lives. So they already know about this statute, and so my message is to them, if you need a safe place to go, we'll provide it for you, but you have to in turn come in, identify who you are, tell us what your status is, and then we'll put you in the right spot. If not, we'll put you in jail, and you'll be safe also during the storm, but you'll be staying over here with a lot of deputies watching you as opposed to one.
Did you say you're going to create a special shelter just for these guys, or they'll have a room in a school someplace?
They will have a place within a shelter, and as these storms pop up, we have an idea of which shelters are going to be open, which ones are pet friendly, which ones are going to be available to different cross sections of the public, but we don't know for sure until not too long before the storm. So I can't tell you where that shelter will be yet, but just prior to the storm, working with EOC or the county, the school board, we'll figure that out.
So I'm not sure I follow you. There
Okay.
will be a room in a school that's a shelter for everybody, or a special school that only the sex offenders will be housed at?
Let me try to say it a different way. So the public will be completely separated from our sex offenders, but they may still be in the same school, if that makes sense. So there's plenty of rooms at these schools. We can put the sex offenders in a sequestered spot, and then our public is safe.
Any pushback at all that you guys faced, or maybe like loopholes of questions that were, raised, and not necessarily disagreeing, but pushing back on this at all?
Not at all. In fact, quite the opposite. Even, you have the public defender that weighs in. They're normally the ones that are fighting for the rights of their defendants that they represent. But all of them across, all of us, whether you're a public defender, the state attorney, law enforcement, victims advocate, everybody wants one thing, and that's the safety of the general public. So we all agree that we're going to keep everybody safe. We're going to keep the sex offenders safe during a storm. We're going to keep our general public safe. This will prevent them from potentially getting themselves drugged back into the legal system. So this actually is a win really for everyone across the board, not just for our general public, which is who we're primarily focusing on, but this is a win for everyone.
Are all these sexual predators and sexual offenders men, or are there some women in that group?
We have both. We have mostly are men, and but we do have some ladies that are women that are in that group. And again, they have different levels of court-ordered restrictions. Some have very few restrictions other than where they can live. Some can interact, go to the store, interact with whoever. A lot of them can. So they all have varying degrees of restrictions. That's our detectives' jobs to go through what those are and keep them, hold their feet to the fire. And we do, aside from this ordinance, multiple times a year, they go out and do surprise offender checks, make sure they're living where they're supposed to be, make sure they're abiding by those rules set forth by the court. And so we keep them in check, and if they violate it all, they go right here to the jail and they spend more time here.
Will those restrictions of each individual matter at all, whether or not they are placed in that kind of general population or in that separate area?
Well, they're never going to be in the general population. Okay. So them being sequestered will take care of that problem.
I think she may have asked, but just so I'm clear about it, if they refuse to give you a name when they show up at a shelter, they're turned away and say, well, scram?
Yes. I know it sounds kind of heartless and there's a storm coming, but if you're serious about us protecting you, you got to work with us. And we're not in those storms, in those We're dealing with evacuations. We're dealing with locking down the public. We're dealing with road closures. There's a lot going on. Our tolerance for people not working with us is extremely low. So yes, if they want to be protected, they've got to work with us. If not, they've got to figure it out on their own. And I know that sounds heartless, but that's the way it is.
So if somebody doesn't have a physical ID, they can give you, though, their name and a date of birth, and that will comply with.
Absolutely. We can track that down. We can pull them up on our computers. That's not hard to do.
Great. Covered it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
Good?
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Are you guys the only one doing this? from
That
the
I
garage?
am aware of,
was gonna
but
say,
I don't want to
that's what I've
misspeak.
heard. Yeah.
So this was passed in August.
Yes.
So it's been in effect for a month now.
Hmm. We were trying to, it took a while, obviously, to make that go through, but.
Thanks.
You guys good?
Yeah,
I got to go to
thank
my
you.
next